Thank you very much.
Hey, it's Kaufman is Alive. I look at comic books new and old. Today, I'm looking at an old comic book going back to the Age of Apocalypse in 1995. Today, we're looking at The Amazing X-Men, issue number 1 by Marvel Comics. This was $1.95 when it first came out. It's got artwork by Andy Kubert. We got Fabian Nicieza doing the writing, and Matt Ryan doing inks over Andy Kubert's pencils. This issue is called Crossing Guards. We got Kevin Summers doing the color art, and Starking's Comicraft is doing the lettering here. And I've always thought that Amazing X-Men was kind of like the B team of these X-Men groups. There's the two main X-Men comics, of course. Uncanny X-Men was turned into Astonishing X-Men, and then the main X-Men, adjectiveless X-Men as you might call it, gained an adjective here and became the Amazing X-Men. But like I said, I always thought this was kind of like the B team. I feel like in Astonishing X-Men, we got the main team, and this is kind of the leftovers is what it almost feels like. But two very cool teams nonetheless, and two very different artists with two different styles doing these X-Men books as well, which is always good to see. I mean, we got Joe Madureira, of course. I've already covered issues 1 and 2 of the Astonishing X-Men, so go check those out if you haven't yet. But he's just got such an anime-influenced style, such delicate, line work as well on his stuff, as opposed to Andy Kubert, which is a little messier. And I've always loved Andy Kubert's style. Very 90s. It just screams 90s to me. It's a little messier. A little more dynamic, I feel like, than stuff from the 80s. But Andy Kubert, always a very solid X-Men artist. Done a lot of work over the years. Him and his brother and his father, all the Kuberts. So definitely like anything that they're on. And this is an interesting kind of setup for this issue, because in this universe, we know that the humans have kind of been taken out of America. A lot of them have immigrated to Europe because the mutants have basically taken over America here. But the Sentinels still exist, and the humans are using the Sentinels to try and save as many humans as they can from America. So they'll send Sentinels from Europe over to America and so forth. And of course, Apocalypse has his own sort of army of Sentinels. He calls them Infinites, and they're almost like an advanced form of Sentinel. But the human population, like I said, immigrated to Europe basically in this Age of Apocalypse, and they're still in control of their Sentinels. So the plot of this is we've got the X-Men trying to save some humans in America, and there's Sentinels trying to do the same thing as well. So kind of an interesting juxtaposition here in the Age of Apocalypse, where you kind of have Sentinels and mutants working together to save humans. Although the Sentinels still are out after mutants, they still have the mutant programming, the mutant hunting programming. So if the X-Men are working alongside the Sentinels to try and save the humans, if the Sentinels found out that they were there, the Sentinels would attack the mutants. So the X-Men, along with, we have Nanny here making an appearance, and they've created this device that can kind of shield their mutant, it can mask their mutant abilities from the Sentinels' scans. And so they're going to use that. And we've got Magneto here in this issue. I like how he's depicted throughout this entire issue. He's very dark and mysterious. We actually never even see his face. He's got the helmet on the whole time. I love this panel here with his eyes. I love the line work on that panel as well. All the lines going around his mask there. Some really cool stuff. Some good characterization in this book. I feel like this whole first issue, a lot of it is just characterization, setting up the characters. Fabian Nicieza, the writer, does a lot of writing on this book. There's tons of dialogue and narration going on here, which is something that he's wont to do all the time. You always get that in a Fabian Nicieza comic book. Lots of writing. And she brings up this Sentinel that they were fighting at the beginning. It was almost like a Danger Room sequence. Of course, this is a X-Men #1 issue, so you got to have the X-Men training in like a Danger Room setting. But she explains that it was just a hard light projection, the Sentinel was, which I've always thought the concept of hard light was always so bizarre and ridiculous. Maybe I'm dumb. Maybe hard light is something that actually exists in our reality. Let me know if you're a scientist or something. I have no idea, but it always sounded like such just a silly concept to me of these characters that can create these projections out of light, but you can actually still touch them and they can touch you. And I mean, at that point, it wouldn't be light, would it? It would have matter. And anyway, I'm getting a little too deep in the weeds there, but so that Sentinel they were fighting was just this hard light construct. Again, this whole issue is really not too exciting. I definitely prefer the Astonishing X-Men issue a little bit more. We've got the human settlements here. They're trying to escape. We've got Storm here trying to turn off the defense monitoring tower here of Apocalypse. This is really only one of the real big splash pages in this book here. And like we don't really get like a big splash page of all the X-Men battling or anything like that, it feels like, in this issue. It's a very dark, kind of slow-moving issue here. But finally all the Sentinels show up. And we see Storm flying there. And the Sentinels are attacking the base. We learn that they're trying to evacuate, the humans are trying to evacuate as many of themselves as they can because they're about to launch a massive attack here on this base. And again, we see the humans here trying to escape, but one of the children we've been following since the beginning of the issue gets pulled back into the forest here by something. We don't know what it is. We've got the narration kind of foreshadowing what's going on here. It says the humans in their delusional dreams will simply be left to fall into the abyss. So we haven't met Abyss yet. We've heard about him in a previous issue, Apocalypse talking about one of his children, one of his horsemen, Abyss, and he becomes kind of the main bad guy of this series. I do like that kind of in each series. We've got a horseman of Apocalypse kind of being assigned to each series as a bad guy. I like that. That's pretty cool. So they have the X-Men have these cloaking devices, but they don't work for some reason. So the Sentinels start attacking them as well. But Polaris sets up this hard light construct distraction of Weapon X and Jean Grey here. It's not really them, but it distracts the Sentinels. So they're able to attack the Sentinels here and try and help the humans escape. But one of the Sentinels blasts Iceman here, and at first reading this, you think they've killed Iceman. But we've got Exodus here, who's on this team. That's who this character is right here. This is Exodus. I wouldn't have known at first unless you read through this. He almost looks like a version of Sunfire or maybe Vulcan, even though Vulcan hadn't been created yet. But it's actually Exodus, we find out, as he was saved by Magneto, so he's joined Magneto's X-Men. But he says that Iceman isn't a problem. He'll put himself back together again. So no harm, no foul there, I guess, for Iceman. He'll be fine. But right as they're about to try and maybe save all the humans, but then the Sentinels start attacking them, things start going wrong here, and then they get met up by Apocalypse's Brotherhood here, who I believe this is Fabian Cortez. I could be wrong. I think that's Fabian Cortez. It might be Havoc. I can't remember. I got to go back through and read these again. But this is a pretty cool drawing and a cool like team adversaries for this X-Men. We get a bad guy group to go up against them in the next issue. And it says Trapped in the Middle of the Abyss. And so I didn't like this issue as much as Astonishing X-Men, but there's some cool artwork in here and sets up some cool things for the future. And the Abyss character, who we have not met yet, is a really interesting character. I can't wait to get into the next issue where he shows up. So again, thanks for watching. Go check out my other reviews, Age of Apocalypse reviews. It's been 30 years to the month that Age of Apocalypse ended at Marvel, so I wanted to get into these books and start covering them. I do have all the Age of Apocalypse books, the entire series, all the single issues, so this might take a few months, but I'm down for it if you guys are. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the video. Did I miss anything? Love this cover too. I like her hand going right up to the X symbol there. Didn't really bring the cover up at all, but a pretty solid cover here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And thanks again for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. Get notifications turned on. I do post daily comic book reviews. Please like the video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Go read comics.